It's all connected, frankly, to why, as I said at the top of the show, the left is imploding. Why they have no strong base of support other than, not coincidentally, who? White, college-educated women. That's it. That's some black women too, but for the most part, it's white, college-educated women who are still Democrats.
100%. And this is why I actually think that the Bernie Sanders movement, which is, predominant among that group of people, and also he's broadening out. I think that, I did my show on this today. I really think that the AOC presidential candidacy that we're all laughing at and scoffing at, I think that we're laughing and scoffing at that a little early. I'm old enough to remember 2007 when people were laughing and scoffing at Barack Obama and suggesting Hillary was definitely going to be the nominee. And when Republicans were actually crossing party lines to vote in primaries in favor of Obama because they wanted to throw a scare into Hillary Clinton. I remember saying that Obama was the actual scary one. I think that actually the Bernie AOC movement is something that really needs to be watched here, not because the Democrats are in any position of strength. But my greatest fear for the Trump administration is that if there's an economic downturn, what you're going to get is a turn to wild left-wing populism. And Bernie is consolidating that crowd really quickly, and bringing AOC on stage to tap her on the shoulder is obviously a tactic. I think that is a very real thing. And she is trying to knit together whatever is left of the Democratic coalition, right? The white college-educated women. She's trying to knit together minorities. She's trying to knit together what she thinks are going to be blue-collar workers with her sort of anti-rich, eat the rich appeal. That I think is the next move for the Democratic Party, actually, if you're gaming out where they go after this.
So you think that she could have mass appeal? I mean, right now she's polling at, I think, 5% or under in the national polls of who should be the Democratic nominee amongst Democrats. Kamala Harris is some 36%. She's at the top. AOC does have name recognition, but is nowhere near the top. She's at the bottom. But you think this person who is far, far left in her politics, notwithstanding her Green New Deal, where she wants to get rid of hamburgers, actually has a shot?
I think that she's playing for an economic downturn. And if there's an economic downturn, I think anybody has a shot. I mean, if you look at that primary poll among Democrats, Kamala's at 36% because she just ran. But the next closest person is Buttigieg at 10, right? So now you're talking about a scrum, right? It's like Buttigieg at 10, Walz at 5, AOC at 5. And so anybody there really sort of has a shot. And if you're talking about a built-in audience, remember, Bernie almost won the nomination in 2020 over Joe Biden. So if he takes her on the road and he gives her his donor list and he sort of taps her on the shoulder, she's going to start with a lot of systemic advantage. She has high name recognition. She's very good on television. I don't think she's particularly intelligent or has anything interesting to say, but that doesn't seem to be a prerequisite for running for president these days at all. So, I think she's more formidable than currently advertised. And she may be too far left for the American people. I certainly think that she is. I think the entire Democratic Party is. But economic downturns have peculiar effects, which is why I'm very much focused on, the Trump administration needs to focus first, more than anything else, right? They did a great job on the border. They've already turned the border from the number one issue into the number 5 issue because they shut down all illegal immigration at the border already. They need to be spending their time ensuring that we do not suffer an economic downturn. Because if there's an economic downturn, as high as I think people are on the right side of the aisle about our political prospects, things turn very quickly in the United States.
Okay, so I want to spend some time on Bernie and AOC because they go out there, they get, supposedly they get these record crowds. There are questions about whether this is an AstroTurf crowd or, this is just the same group of protesters that shows up at all of these things, or supporters, depending on what the daily cause is or not. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say, even though neither one is running for anything right now, it was organic and people just wanted to hear two Democrat socialists get up there and talk about making America more socialist. He's out there. They're both out there right now in some way trying to moderate their messages, right? He gave an interview in which he was asked, what's the one thing that Trump has done well? And here's what he said.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah. I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks that illegal immigration is appropriate. And I happen to think we need comprehensive immigration reform. But I don't think that it's appropriate for people to be coming across the border illegally. He wants to deport 20 million people who are in this country who are undocumented. Well, you do that, you destroy the entire country, because I got news for you. Trump's billionaire friends are not going to pick the crops in California that feed us. They're not going to work in meat packing houses. That's what undocumented people are doing. So we need a variety of programs, guest worker programs, but mostly comprehensive immigration reform.
But you know, illegal immigration, it exploded under Biden, and nothing was really done until his last year in office when he was...
Yep, should have done much better, no argument.
Should have done much better. I guess he wants a closed border now. Tell that to the Bernie of 2019 when he was running for office in the primary, and everybody was asked if they wanted to crack down on illegal immigration at the border. He didn't. He raised his hand saying he wanted to decriminalize the border, to decriminalize it, Ben, and he's been all over the board, frankly, on this, because at some points he's like, the Koch brothers are the ones who want open borders. That would be a disaster. But then he's saying we should decriminalize border crossings, and which is basically a red carpet invitation. But what he wants ABC News and Jonathan Karl to think is he's pro-Trump's moves at the border, even though he called the first Trump administration wall ridiculous. He thought Trump's policies were way too tough, that he was cracking down too much on. He wanted to end the deportations. I mean, so that's Bernie, stand by. And then here is AOC, who is the queen of pronouns and all the trans nonsense. She hasn't seen a trans policy she doesn't support. She's dying to get boys into girls' sports. And here she is. See if you can hear the change in her messaging on that issue at one of these rallies.
And they will throw out every label and judgment and cultural debate in the book to keep us distracted, folks. This is what the focus on trans kids is all about. Come on, 1% of the entire population. If people want to have conversations about that, take it to the NCAA. It doesn't need to be on the floor of the United States Congress. We need to be taxing the rich on the floor of the United States Congress. We need to be establishing guaranteed health care on the floor of the United States Congress, not erasing American history on the floor of the United States Congress. We need to be passing a living wage on the floor of the United States Congress.
She thinks she's a preacher. She sometimes slips into that way of speaking, right? But there she is. She just wants to table boys and girls sports. Just let the NCAA deal with it, Ben.
Well, again, what they're doing is shockingly smart. So Bernie, I mean, I say that because I think that they have a combined IQ of a kumquat. But Bernie Sanders, who is a lifelong leech on the ass of American society and has switched his tune with regards to illegal immigration many times, he used to actually be very closed border because he used to acknowledge a reality, which is that if you have socialist redistribution in a country, you can't have an open border. That's just a giant magnet for everybody to come in and take government benefits. So he actually used to be in favor of a much more closed border. And now he's reverting back to that stance, which, of course, is a much more popular stance. You see her doing what Democrats are now attempting to do, which is they don't want to reverse themselves completely the way that Gavin Newsom tried to in order to get away from the trans issue. Instead, they're saying, why are we even talking about this? Who even brought this up? The answer is you brought this up. You made this a center point of your actual worldview. But you can see her trying to put that off to the side and go back to the economic populist message. And this is why I say, I think that the Democrats are gambling on one thing and one thing only, and that's an economic downturn. They are figuring that if there's an economic downturn, that their message of oligarchy is going to be effective. This is why they're also training their guns at Elon as opposed to Trump. If they train their guns at Trump, Trump is Teflon. As I've said since 2016, Donald Trump is a mud monster. And if you throw more mud at him, he just becomes more of a mud monster. But if they train their guns on Elon, they understand Elon is not vulnerable in the same way. He's not on the public dime. He obviously is the richest person in the world. He doesn't really seem to care what people think. But if they can tie together the idea that Elon and Trump are part of a corrupt oligarchy together who are manipulating American economics and impoverishing the poor, and then if the economy goes south, then they can have a sort of horseshoe theory thing happen with sort of the populist right, and they can hope for enough crossover to actually be competitive in a national election. I think they're pretty openly playing for a recession right now. I think that it's again, I don't think it's stupid. I think the tactic itself is smart, even if the messengers are not particularly bright.
I just don't think they should be betting on it because Trump, while he's saying we're going to have some short-term pain, hopefully for longer-term gain as he, imposes these tariffs and so on, he's just never going to let it get to the point where somebody has a political advantage over him. That's just not how Trump operates.
I agree with you.
If he actually sees trouble for himself or his successor or the Republicans on a sustained recession-like economy, he'll fix it. He'll let up on the tariffs. He's never going to give them that advantage. Here's the soundbite we were looking for on Bernie Sanders. So now he's suddenly pro-Trump's border behavior. Yeah, it was well overdue. We needed to crack down on the border. I mean, it's amazing that he said that to John Karl. And here he was. We pulled this. This is actually Western Lensman, who's on X. He put together this montage, a good one. And then our pal over at Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan, called attention to it too. Bernie's reversal. Here he was not too long ago, sounding very different under Trump 1.0. SOT 41.
Look, I think that the wall is an absurd idea. I think it's a waste of money. I think it just fans Trump's illusions.
America cannot simply build walls. We look foolish to the rest of the world. We look foolish to Mexico.
So we are going to end the ICE raids, which are terrorizing communities all across this country. We are going to impose a moratorium on deportations.
Okay, so no wall. We're going to end the ICE raids, and we're not going to deport any people. And you saw him at that presidential debate saying he wants to decriminalize border crossings. But now he's super in favor of what Trump is doing at the border, long overdue. These guys are such hypocrites. It's absolutely infuriating. Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it? And at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.